Good evening, St. Lucia, and welcome to another Chill and Chat edition. I am your host, Mondi Lewis. Today I have with me the endorsed candidate for Choiseul Saltibus, Dr. Pauline Antoine-Prospere. Good evening, Dr. Prospere.
Good evening, Mondi. I am very delighted to be here this evening, and I would like to say a special hello to the constituents of Choiseul Saltibus.
All right, Dr. Antoine. So Choiseul Saltibus and Pauline Antoine-Prospere. Tell us about Pauline Antoine-Prospere.
Well, Pauline Antoine was raised in the quaint community of Daba, Saltibus.
Okay.
She attended the Saltibus Combined School, later on the Choiseul Junior Secondary School, and then the Vieux-Fort Senior Secondary, as it was called before.
Okay.
After graduation, as a young individual, I went to work. After I sent out my applications for jobs, I got to work at a job at a factory in Vieux-Fort. I worked there for 3 months. And you won't believe that within those 3 months, I felt that the salary was too low. And so I negotiated on behalf of the workers. And we got a raise in salary.
Oh, wow. Commendable.
The people who know Pauline know that I am very jovial. Mm-hmm. I like a good joke. I can be a party animal when I make up my mind.
Good to know.
So sometimes people look at my face and say, but she has a serious face. But within Pauline is a very amiable person, is somebody who is very passionate about what happens in the community, is somebody who goes into deep conversation with the people of the community. People may not know, but I am very generous and I don't broadcast it. So the people that I assist, I remember when I taught at PI Secondary School, I had to be a mentor to many students. At the time there was no counselor, and my phone rang all the time just to keep children going. My house as a primary school teacher was the home for the boys. They came there, they just didn't sleep at my house, they cooked. When it was my birthday, I came home and there was a birthday party, they would bring everything. So I really had a fulfilling youth. I interacted well with the young people, especially young boys. So growing up in Saltibus, it was very exciting. On rainy days, we bathed outside in the rain. We went to the river. We had picnics. So I really enjoyed growing up in Saltibus. So I have had a very fulfilling childhood and a very fulfilling life growing up as a young person in the community of Saltibus. I took on leadership very, very young, about 15, 16. I was a guide, I became a guider. I was a member of the development committee. I was in the church choir.
Okay.
I was on the church council. I worked with the youth, so we were on the Library Youth and Sports Council. I worked with Harambe, a football team in Jetwin. In addition to that, at one point, I really didn't have a life. And my mother looked at me once and said, I know I didn't make you for myself. And I said, Mom, everybody took care of me, and therefore I have an obligation to my community. And so I taught adult literacy after school. I was at choir practice. I was doing everything. And later on, I became involved in the credit union at the Saltibus Combine. So I started as a member of the credit committee, the supervisory committee. I became the secretary, the treasurer, the president of the Saltibus community. Okay. And so most of my time was devoted to the community, because you know that you have to attend meetings. Sometimes I remember late night, midnight, I'm walking from Saltibus to Daba from credit union meetings. And I remember Mr. Closter, the two of us would walk home, and when it was time for dividend and patronage refund, I remember Mr. Butt and I sat at the credit union late hours manually calculating dividends and patronage refund for the people of Saltibus, for the credit union. So for the people who didn't know,
Yes.
I have done my share, and I encourage all young people, because you don't know what it does for you at the time, but it really develops you into a leader. It really makes you a responsible adult when you grow up. And maybe some young people who are reluctant to give community service, because this is what I find these days. A lot of our young people want direct rewards for anything that they do. So I do this, pay me. But they don't realize that even with voluntary service, you don't see the rewards until later on in life when you realize, but I have grown. And you know, all of those experiences have made me who I am today.
Okay, Dr. Anton, I mean, that's truly being a product of Swaziland Saltibus. I mean,
Indeed.
a community raising you, and also you giving back to your community, which has been very important. I mean, my next question would have been your community involvement, but you have gone through that very nicely for us. But I remember once in a conversation, you spoke about growing up with your grandmother and being, Catholic and being raised in that faith. Is that something that you still hold to? Is that something that even within your community that is shared?
I still value the Catholic Church very much. Well, with my grandmother, she took you to church, so you had to go to church every Sunday. And this is how I became involved in church, because if you don't go to church, you don't get involved in whatever activities that take place in the church. So it was my grandmother who really transitioned me into church. A lot of the values I have, incidentally, I acquired from my grandmother, because she was very strict when it came to neatness and cleanliness. That was my grandmother's first name. When it came to community service, this was my grandmother's name as well, because for every parish bazaar, she was in the kitchen cooking. And if I am a good cook today, all compliments to my grandmother.
Yes.
And if I have the values of working as an individual, it came from my grandmother as well, because I remember her telling me sternly, you have to go to school, you have to work, because some men want a wife to sit in the house. He said, if the man tells you that I will give you $50 and you work for $50 and $50 doesn't make $50. And so to this day, I feel that I'm obligated to work to help myself and not to depend on somebody. And I urge all the young people out there, not to sit back. Remember earlier I said I went to the factory. I mean, it was little money, but I felt this was better than just sitting in the house. Sometimes we feel they're not paying enough. But the experience that you gain from working sometimes is much more than the salary that you get. And so we have to cherish those opportunities we get. That even if it's not a huge salary that you're not satisfied with, you work, you make that a start in life for you, and then from there you can use it as a springboard to move forward.
Okay. And I mean, you have taken us really through a journey of your life. Like you said, I don't know where you found the time to do it, but you did. And you rose to the top of your profession. You were the district education officer, having been principal, teacher, mentor, cook counselor. How has that, and then you also went on to do a PhD.
A doctorate.
How is that, how are you able to navigate that life?
Money, you must have determination in life. I always felt my mom was a single mom, a struggling mom, and I watched her struggle to raise us. And I always felt that I should do better than my mom did in life. And this was my motivation. So after I became a teacher, I went to Teachers College. I succeeded. I still did a course in music.
Very nice.
I did a certificate in social studies, geography, and incidentally, I did them simultaneously at the Mon, because I am self-motivated, I am self-driven, and I don't think that there is anything that is beyond me. I don't think there's anything that I cannot achieve if I set out to do it. So afterwards, I did a first degree, and then I did my master's, and I was pretty much relaxed until a friend, in fact, a teacher who taught with me at the said, "Miss, you is offering a doctorate. Do you think you are too old to do it?" I said, "Too old? I'm not yet dead. The only time I'll be old is when I'm dead." So the two of us decided to do the course, and I mean, we succeeded. We did very well. And mind you, I never missed a day's work for my course. I am this person who feels that I give a fair day's work. I was always at work. I burnt my midnight oil, and I can tell you it was no easy task. And it was probably a good thing that I had the teacher working with me, because the two of us had to pull each other. So when she was down, I'd pull her up, and when I was down, she'd pull me down. So together we were able to achieve. I had to, because at the time I had a school to run. I have 2 young children, one at secondary school and one at primary school. I have a husband, I have a household. I have no relatives who live close to me now that I moved to my husband's place of residence. And so I had to get a motto to push me forward, and that was get it done. So I just knew I had to get it done. So I had to get the cooking done. I had to help my children with their schoolwork. I had to run my school. I had to do my studies. And I did all of it. And I did it well.
Wow.
I can tell you, I finished with an A average. So I did well.
You got it done.
I got it done.
You have that motto, get it done.
Yes, get it done.
And I mean, even now, Dr. Prospere, you have left that vocation, those years of service. How many years of service in all?
37 years.
37.
I started very young.
Yes, I was older than me.
And some people tell me I don't look so old, so
Yes,
don't tell people my age.
That is really commendable. After 37 years of service, you have given that up and transitioned into politics. Why would you do such a thing?
But if you notice, Monday, I taught at Saltibus, I taught at PI Secondary, then I became principal at Grace Combined School, and then principal at Delsey Combined, and then education officer at Soufrière. So I have not been static. I am not somebody who has been sitting and feeling comfortable. I am somebody who feel that I can, I mean, there is no end to life until life is ended. Okay? And I remember a poem that I learned at before secondary school, "Don't let death find you thinking that you die." And so I am reminded that you do whatever you have to do. You don't have to think of what happens. As long as you have the strength, you have the health, you have the energy, you pursue it. And so going into politics wasn't something that I had thought of before. But when I was a young person in Saltibus, people had expectations of me and said, but you can do this and you can do that. It was the same. A number of people would tell me, "But Miss, have you ever thought of going into politics? Miss, I think you would be able to represent us well. Miss, but you can do that, Miss." And so I felt obligated to answer to their call. I felt obligated that if the people of my community felt that I could do it, then I could pursue it. And so I gave a lot of thought to it. And I said, I think I can do that. I was an education officer. I was very comfortable in my job. It's not something that was beyond me. However, I thought of the people. When I looked at what was happening around me, I wasn't comfortable with what was the kind of governance we had, the kind of UWP administration that we had, that there was no prudent use of the country's resources. I felt that the people of Choiseul Saltibus were not well represented. And I felt that I could go to, if I went into politics, I would be able to do a good job at representing the people. Because on the ground, I feel comfortable speaking with the people in Saltibus. Some people, I remember some people said I don't talk, but probably they didn't know how much I talk. And the people I meet on the ground know that in fact, I am able to relate to the young and the old. As I said, I was raised with my grandmother, so it's easy for me to relate to the older people. I was in the education system for 37 years, and I interacted with people of all ages. In addition to that, I was president of the National Principal Association, so I served at a different level. Okay, and so those experiences propelled me into answering the call to represent Choiseul Saltibus.
I mean, you have literally given your whole life of service to Choiseul, and you've just taken it to another level.
Right, to another level.
And now that you're on the ground in Choiseul Saltibus, and not that you haven't been, but in your role now as a candidate looking to represent the people of Choiseul Saltibus, what are the concerns that you've been hearing from the constituents?
Well, my mother lives in Saltibus, so I would know some of the issues. But walking the ground, the main issues in Choiseul Saltibus are, one, water. There is an acute water shortage in Choiseul Saltibus. Some people don't get water for weeks. Some of them get water once a month. It is really, really a problem. And so I feel that my first task would be to address the issue of water in Saltibus, the issue of storage, rainwater harvesting, look at all the options available so that the people of Choiseul Saltibus can get a regular water supply. Because water, the other motto for, as Wasco says, water is life. You may not have electricity and survive, but you need water to survive. Well, around St. Lucia there is the UN cry from the youth for employment, for opportunities to further their education. And I'm very happy that the political leader has made a commitment to ensure at least one member of each household gets university or higher education. And so I'm very, very, very happy about that. And so the young people of Choiseul Saltibus have some hope. They complain about sports facilities, and when the Labour Party was in power, all the fields looked...
Yes, they were maintained. We had that.
Well, they were well maintained, and now the cows graze, the sheep and those animals are happy. And so the young people need better facilities. I met some young men from the Mongoose area, and they want to work. They want to help themselves. They want to go into agriculture, but there's no water for irrigation. And these are the cries that really bother me, that something can be done. These are young people who are motivated to work. These are young people who want to help themselves. And all we have to do is to give a helping hand, and they move forward. I met the craft workers in Choiseul. They make beautiful mats and chairs and everything.
And the bags, I love the bags.
And the bags and everything. And they do not have a ready market for their produce. And I think that we need to assist those people from Choiseul. The fishers of Choiseul have an issue with what they call the Daito, where the sand continues to accumulate, and they need some relief with that. So this is an area that we have to address. The fish cooperation is no longer in existence, and therefore they have to push a wheelbarrow or hire a vehicle all hours of the night in order to sell their fish, whereas they could have just dropped it in Beaufort and then they could go and sleep, and the following day they could sell the fish again. The farmers are also clamoring because they do not get assistance with inputs. When there is a disaster, they lose their crop, there is no insurance to assist them, and so we have to assist the farmers. Sometimes during the year there is no market for their produce, there is a glut, and there is nothing for the farmers. And so we are looking at opportunities for employment for even the women, the young women, the young men in the community, for when you have extra mangoes, extra fruits, for agro processing, so that we can make a livelihood from the very materials from the community. We also have issues with parents who are unable to assist their children for further education, to send them to secondary school. We have issues with transportation. And you may not know, Moni, but there is a serious problem with feeding children in the Choiseul Saltibus area.
We know, we have it in Castries too.
It's all around.
Yes, it is. I've never seen it like this before.
And so we have to make a greater effort to ensure that the monies we have, that sometimes we waste and do things that are less important, that we feed the nation's children. Being in the education system, sometimes you have to buy shoes for children. Sometimes you have to help the parents with uniform.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to help them with books. So I think that the parents, a lot of the young parents in the community need assistance to help to give their children a good education, as opposed to children staying home because they have no food or they don't have shoes to go to school and things like that.
St. Lucia, this has been Chill and Chat with our endorsed candidate for Choiseul Saltibus, Dr. Pauline Antoine-Prospere. Please stay tuned and we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, St. Lucia, to another Chill and Chat. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and again, my guest, Dr. Pauline Antoine-Prospere, the endorsed candidate for the St. Lucia Labour Party, Choiseul Saltibus. Dr. Antoine, before the break, we were speaking about the issues within the constituency of Choiseul Saltibus, and I think your list is very long. But where is the MP for Choiseul Saltibus?
Well, that is my issue as well, because Choiseul Saltibus needs good representation. We deserve better representation. Let's look at case in point, the Prime Minister preventing the fishermen from going to sea for an entire week in the name of backdoor.
Yes.
I was speaking to the fishermen of Choiseul and I said, does anybody know that Choiseul has a record of carrying anybody backdoor? I think we have to address the issues. Where was the minister in all of that? Where was the representative from Choiseul to stand for the fishermen of Choiseul and say, no, Choiseul fishermen are not part of this thing, and therefore we should allow them to continue their livelihood. But I think there is a deeper issue, because Rainforest Foods has enough fish, there's a glut, and therefore this fish has to be sold. This is what should be told to the fishermen, and not use backdoor as the excuse to prevent the fishermen from having a livelihood. We should start speaking about the competition that has been created for the fishermen when it is so difficult that the fish cooperation has been taken away from them, and now they have to be faced with not going fishing for a different reason. I think this should be addressed.
Yes, it's, the silence of some of the MPs on this who have fishing, very vibrant fishing communities, that it's been deafening, but
It's sad.
Yeah. But St. Lucians will have the opportunity to deal with them in the upcoming general election. And I know that you have been on the ground talking to them.
The people will make their voices heard.
Very good. So we have no leadership when it comes to this whole fishing crisis that we saw this week. And then you spoke about something that I know is very dear to you before we went to the break, was the education and the issues that parents and both children are facing. At least now they don't have to go to school, but we know that there are no laptop program. So a lot of children are without devices. A lot of children are not home, and you spoke about the issue of hunger, and I can tell you from being in the office with the political leader, on a day-to-day basis, we get scores of people coming in the office, the request, and for basic necessities, flour, rice, sugar. People are asking for flour, rice, sugar in St. Lucia right now. How has that been? What has been your experience also in the constituency?
It's no different, Monday. Sometimes we get assistance we can give to a few people, but we cannot help. I wish I could have helped all the parents, because I have worked in the school system, and I know that there are children who would come to school hungry and they would not tell you. You'd have to see they are hungry and offer them something. Some of the children have pride and they wouldn't want people to know that they're hungry. But a lot of the money that we have wasted and given to undeserving people should be used to feed and clothe, because we know the situation. We know that a lot of parents have lost their jobs, their livelihoods, and therefore we should concentrate on assisting the parents. We should bring back the social programs to the communities so that we can help the parents to feed their children.
Yes. I mean, and now that some of them are home now, we can't even, at least when you were at school, you knew that a teacher might look out for you, or the canteen lady would give you a little
something,
fruits and cheese or something. And
right. But some of them are at home and they may not have enough to eat. In addition, some of them have to do the work and they may have no internet at home, they have no devices to do the work. I would like to commend the principals and the teachers who still try to prepare packages for those children. But then you still cannot get the enriching environment so that you can do better. With the technology, you have the feedback, you can check if it's right, if it's wrong. You know, you can sit there, do some, but just going through the papers, there's no teacher, there's nobody. Sometimes the parents are not there. And so a lot of the children may not even do the work that is assigned to them. So it is really a problem, it is really an issue, and I am sure working with a St. Lucia Labour Party government, we will assist parents a lot better.
Yes, I've seen some ideas floating around the internet in terms of, what are your thoughts? Should this have been literally a gap year for students, because they've essentially missed out term 2 and 3 of last year, and they're going to miss out another term, so that's 3 terms, essentially a year's worth of school. What would you have, had it been you, what would have been your advice? Let's say you were the Minister of Education. What would have been your advice?
Before I give my advice, Monday, I was a victim of Hurricane Allen.
Okay.
In 1980, I stayed out of school for an entire term. When we went back to school, it was one day in, one day out, and maybe you were not there Monday.
No.
But we got rations, the helicopters came down and dropped canned foods, and that's what we ate because the trees were bare. There was nothing. Monday, I have a doctorate today. And so children will bounce back,
Yes.
regardless what. What we have to do is to try to keep them going. If we can get the children to at least read and write and do the mathematics, we can. And if we had transitioned into technology earlier, because it was kept back, we have to transition into 21st century education. And if the laptop program was there and technology was made a priority in the school system, we would not have been left on our backs now. We would have been moving forward just like other schools. I am not saying that we had enough money to give every child a device. However, at least every household would have had a device so that the children could work from. Because what is keeping us back is a curriculum that is heavy on content and not heavy on skills education. And so if we looked at education in this way, we wouldn't feel that we are left behind. Because if you are teaching children skills, content is everywhere. You pick up the content. So if we concentrate on STEM education, you understand, teaching the science, the technology, the engineering, the mathematics, and the arts, we will have an education system where we have a multiplicity of skills around. Because right now, what we have to look at is not teaching our children for today. The world is dynamic and change is moving at lightning pace. And so we have to prepare our children for the world ahead. We have to think of lifelong learning. And so it's not for the grade 2 or for the grade 3. We are teaching our children for life. And so while we cannot have them one-on-one doing the, because we have an examination-based system. And the teachers are complaining because they are told that, what about the assessment? A teacher met me during the week and told me, Miss, we are told that we have to assess the children. I said, assess what? Because you cannot do the same assessment for everybody. It's not a level playing field, because some children are getting packages, some children are getting online learning, and therefore we have to consider the mode of delivery and realize that we cannot give the same kind of assessment because the mode of delivery is different. You understand? And so we have to look at assessing what the children have done online, because this is why I think it was the union who said that we cannot do, if the children were not at school, we cannot give them a report for the end of the term. We can speak to what they have done. So there were certain objectives that were taught, and you speak to those objectives, whether the children have been able to acquire or proficient in those objectives that were set out for the term. And so I don't think all is doom and gloom for our children. We have to keep them. We will not be able to take the children back to term 2 of the last academic year. We have to look forward. We have to look at how we give them the requisite skills from where they are, because we cannot take them from where they are not. We have to take them from where they are and work with the children.
Okay, I really liked that you said that the children are resilient, and it is true. And even your story about 1980 to now, I guess some of us we don't see the bigger picture. We can't see so far ahead, but you have worked with children, so I understand that you will see it totally different, and you know what children are capable of.
So we know it is not business as usual. We know it is a different environment altogether with COVID. We have to keep the children going as much as possible. We don't do away with school at home. So this is the place for homeschooling. And this is why I am saying that, some parents are home, they can help the children, the teachers can, dialogue with the parents as to how to assist the children, because what else can we do?
Yeah.
We cannot put them in a physical environment that is dangerous for their health. My son finished secondary school, and I was hoping to send him to start high school or to college. But I look at the environment out there, it is not safe. What do we put first? Do we put our education first, our health first? Because if we are not there, we
Yes.
cannot be educated. And
Agreed.
so we have to balance things out and do what we think is the priority.
Okay. So we have seen the issue with the digital divide in our education system, and I mean the foresight of a St. Lucia Labour Party with the laptop program would have done very well right now in this COVID-19 pandemic. But when you have a myopic government, I suppose
You know what to expect.
yes, this is what you get. But even moving past these challenges, and you spoke about the digital divide, you spoke about the curriculum. As an administrator, so you literally came out from practicing teaching and you became an administrator. What are some of the other challenges that you saw for the education and even building that 21st century citizen that you spoke about?
Yes, moving into, well, the scenario is the same, you know, Mondi, as a teacher or as a principal or as an education officer, because you are not at the level of policy decisions.
Okay.
You take instructions from the top, and so something that you may want to see, you may never see it. I remember as the National Principals Association president, I felt that schools needed security. We still have schools that do not have a caretaker, and the principal and the teachers have to be opening the gate and monitoring the traffic in and out of the school. We still have the issue with adequate resources for schools. We are shortchanged. At the school level, you have to be raising funds, and that's illegal, you know, but you have to be raising funds to run the school. Whatever subvention you've given for the year cannot do it. And so it's the community that helps in running the school. The corporate citizens, the parents, you know, the teachers work after hours raising funds to get things done for the schools. And so there is a serious issue with resources for schools. At school level, the issue of parental involvement came up quite often, that some of us still don't make education a priority. And so school is always, when children just enter kindergarten, we make a fuss and a common entrance. And we want good CXC results. So it's always the beginning or the end result. But we are not there to see our children through school. And this is where I would call on parents to be more caring, to be more accommodating to the children. When they get to secondary school, don't think that is the end of the world. We still have to be there with them every step of the way to ensure that they are successful, because sometimes the children get their own way and we do not get the end that we are looking for. And so as educators, as parents, we have to work with the students. There should also be a close link between the Ministry of Education and the school. Well, we still say the principal is part of the ministry, the education officer is part of the ministry. But sometimes there are loose ends. There's not always that collaboration. There's not always that effective communication, so that things are done, you know, to everybody's satisfaction, and resources are not used effectively. Sometimes the priorities that you have at the school may not be the priority at the ministry. I have stayed in my school and people came and told me they came to do this, and that was not my priority. So there need to be greater consultation with school so that you know what the needs of the school, and that there's a greater sensitivity to the needs of the school, the principals and the teachers on the ground. So that, because at the end of the day, we all should have a common objective, and that is the best education that we can provide to our children with the limited resources that we have. I mean, I will admit that we have limited resources, but we have to use the resources effectively so that we get the best outcome out of it.
Very nice, Dr. Antoine. It really shows that, you come across as somebody who's thought about this, but then not even only just thought, you've lived it.
Yes.
You've lived it, but you also have some advice, some solutions to not only the education system, but your constituency. And I'm happy that we got the opportunity to have this discussion of again, I don't know where you find the time to do half of the things that you do,
Yes.
and you have a whole family.
Well, I must confess, Molly, that I had my children late. I gave community my youth.
Okay.
And then I had my children in old age.
But now you have your children and you go into politics.
Yes. But their mommy is always there.
Yes. Dr. Antoine, I mean, it is just very refreshing speaking to you and having yet another woman in politics. And that is just something I want to touch on. How has that been for you? You have been a leader in every field that you have, and now that you are a woman in politics, how has that been? How has that reception been for you?
I should admit that the reception has been very good on the ground. I mean, you meet people one-on-one, and you have an opportunity for conversation. And I didn't think, my expectation of going into politics was not that. I didn't realize that you had to be going to every person and meeting people on a personal level. But it has been very enriching for me, Monday, because you learn so much. I was saying to a friend of mine, I have learned more in a few months that I have been in politics than I learned in my lifetime.
And you have done so much in your lifetime.
Yes.
And you think that this has been a greater education for you?
No, there are people that, you would greet before and it was nice. And so because of your political affiliation, they look at you differently.
Okay.
On the other hand, there are people you meet on the ground who are so appreciative of you, who yearn for a conversation. Some people I passed their homes and they were not there. They send messages to me to come back, so that I can have a conversation. Because everybody has something to say. And this is why I believe that as a politician, when I become the member of parliament for Swaziland, I will make it my duty to go back to speak with these people, because this is where you get all the information, Mondi. Taking a mic and standing on a stage, you know nothing. It's on the ground. You get to know the people one-on-one. You get to know their suffering. You get to know their joys. And if there was one thing I was happy to hear, in fact, you hear from when you move from community to community, a lot of the needs may be different. There are some people who say to you, as long as you help the community, we are happy. There are some people who want direct rewards, so they want a contract, or they want this, or they want that. There are people who tell you they simply want to see you.
Yes.
They simply want to see you, that they voted for you, and you have to come back. Let them know that you know that they are there. Just pay them a visit. They don't need anything. We have other people who have other needs, but generally, on the ground, I have learned so much I can write a book. Yes,
Very good.
I can literally write a book because you understand. For example, children would come to school sometimes and you wonder why they don't have books or whatever. But when you walk around and you realize that the people with all the biggest smiles sometimes are people who are hungry and they don't want to tell you that. But when you have this private conversation with them, then you see, you know, there is real need to go into politics so that you can work with these people to help to improve their livelihoods. You know, and this is very close to my heart. Going around, I have really understood, and I wonder if I had to go around St. Lucia what it would be like. But just going around in Choiseul and listening to the people, there is so much I have learned and there is so much I have to do. I feel that I have a commitment to remove my shoes because I have been removing my shoes. I have been crossing the ravines. I have been climbing the hills. I have been meeting with the people. I have been sitting on the ground, and the lady asked me, told me, Miss, you know, there are certain people who would never come and sit there like this. I'm so appreciative that you can come and sit there and talk to us. But you have to, I did some sociology in school and you know about human beings. So you can sit and converse with people. You feel comfortable with them and let them feel comfortable with you as well. You cannot come to serve and sit on a pedestal. You have to meet the people where they are so that you understand how they live, how they survive, so that you know how to serve them.
Okay, St. Lucia, this is your next Member of Parliament for Choiseul Saltibus, Dr. Pauline Antoine-Prospere, and we have been chilling and chatting with her this evening, but we have to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Chill and Chat St. Lucia. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and again my guest, the endorsed candidate for the St. Lucia Labour Party, Dr. Pauline Antoine-Prospere. We've been speaking about education, community service, Choiseul Saltibus, and truly, Dr. Antoine-Prospere is a fresh breath of air in St. Lucian politics, thanks to the St. Lucia Labour Party. We're going to my favorite segment of the show, the quick fire questions. So, Dr. Prospere, could you tell us who's the one person who changed your life?
My grandmother.
Okay. And that's because you were raised with her?
I was raised with her, and her values that she has instilled in me has made me who I am today.
Perfect. Finish this sentence. What St. Lucia needs now is?
Good governance.
Oh, that was an easy one. What's your favorite place in St. Lucia?
Saltibus, Choiseul, but I love Soufrière.
Okay.
Actually, my formative years were spent in Soufrière with my aunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question. If you became MP and could tackle only one issue, what would that be?
To improve the livelihood of the people of Choiseul Saltibus.
You're cheating. But I'll accept. Why Philip J. Pierre for Prime Minister?
He's a 5-star general. He has served Castries East well. And if you look at his record, you would have seen that for every ministry he has held, he has done the best.
Yeah, and St. Lucia, you can go check that. It is a fact. What keeps you up at night?
Well, for now, having been on the ground speaking to the people of Choiseul Saltibus, all the issues that they have, all the problems that they have, has been keeping me awake because they need a lot of assistance, and at this time I am not empowered to help these people.
Okay, yes. Why the St. Lucia Labour Party?
It is a better choice. There is no doubt about that.
You heard that, St. Lucia? The St. Lucia Labour Party. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
The ability to read the minds of people. So at least I would know what people are thinking. I would know how to help people, because sometimes it's not everybody who speaks out.
Yeah.
And so I would know exactly what the people of Choiseul Saltibus wanted, so I could meet their needs.
Okay, very nice. And the last question. Chasing waterfalls or the beach?
Monday, I've chased waterfalls all my life.
You people of Choiseul are such shows.
Yes, I have chased waterfalls my entire life. I have never been somebody who is static. I have been somebody who goes for it. I don't sit back and think of what should be, but I go for it. I'm a go-getter. I am somebody who aims for the stars.
Okay, very nice, Dr. Prospere. And that was it for our quick fire question. Dr. Prospere, it was my pleasure having you for Chill and Chat. Are there any final words for the people of Choiseul Saltibus?
Monday, I am very delighted to be the person who was chosen to represent Choiseul Saltibus at the next general election. I want to tell Choiseul I am willing, I am able, and I am ready to work with you, to consult with you, to speak about your needs and to help to address the needs of the people of Choiseul Saltibus. So I am calling on you to work with me, to dialogue with me, so that together we can achieve that goal.
Okay, St. Lucia, you heard it. Dr. Pauline Antoine-Prospere, the endorsed candidate for the St. Lucia Labour Party for the Choiseul Saltibus seat. This was it for us for Chill and Chat. Thank you for tuning in.